All righty, welcome back to the Are You Strong show. Man, I'm excited again today. Another Maine black bear is on the show, and I've been hunting this guy down for a while. It's been blowing me off, but I finally got him on here. He's just a very busy guy. Wait till you hear what this guy's accomplished in the athletic space and what he's been doing. But before I get into asking him a bunch of questions, let me introduce him. What's really cool, the first thing that's going to stand out to me about this young man, it's not that he played football at Maine, even though that was great, is he was a scholar athlete. This guy was just as much about the football field and the classroom there was together. And I love to talk about that this guy was great in the classroom and on the field, but a four-time letter winner from 2008 through 2011 at the University of Maine, the Black Bears, and a scholar, Maine scholar athlete, rising star as a red shirt. I think it might have been the freshman year, red shirt freshman, maybe sophomore. I don't know if I got that date right, but
Long
welcome to the
time.
show. Yeah, long time, but welcome to the show, Roosevelt Boone.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Jeff. Excited to be here, my man. And I haven't been ducking you. Just, a lot of things have been coming up, and
I know
I'm all
you're a
yours tonight,
busy
my
guy.
man.
You're a busy guy. But thanks for
Love
being
what you're
on.
doing.
I got a whole
Yeah,
slew of questions to ask. And before I do that, just do me a quick favor. Just tell the audience just a little bit about yourself.
yeah. So my name again is Roosevelt Boone. I'm from Washington, D.C., born and raised. Played high school football at the Christ Church School. I throw a plug out there for the Christ Church School. Any parents looking for a
Yeah.
boarding school experience, check them out. But from there went up to Maine, University of Maine, where I led it for 4 years. Um, did my graduate study at the University of Maine as well. And when that time concluded, I jumped into the coaching ranks and I coached up at Orono for 2 years. Coached the running backs, coordinated recruiting. Then I left there and went down to Rutgers. I spent 3 years down there with their football program. Left in 2021. I pivoted from there and got into higher ed. I became a dean at two private liberal arts colleges up in Maine. Went back to Maine. My girlfriend took me back there, but we're
Yeah.
no longer together.
Okay.
But it was still great to be back up in Maine, and a place that was a second home, a place that I would consider a second or third home to this point for myself. But heavy into the nonprofit space as well, Jeff. Strong Mind, Strong Body Incorporated. I started up at the University of Maine in 2011 as a summer program, a free wellness and nutrition summer program, and I've done a number of things since that time over the past 14 years or so. And now have a kid here, Mr. Divine Ivy from West Africa, that we can talk more about as well when we get into the
Yeah.
conversation.
Sure. Well, listen, man, I got a ton of things to ask you. But the
Yeah,
first thing I want to get into, and I get it, I ask this all the time for the athletes that are on the show, is you're like you said, you're a DC guy, right?
yeah. Born and raised. Yeah, yeah.
How the heck did you end up in Maine?
It's a good question. Honestly, when Coach Scott, actually, Brian Scott came to visit me, I think he's at Towson or was at Towson most recently in his coaching career, still coaching. But when he came to visit, he you made the offer, and it's a place I'd never visited before. I knew nothing about the state of Maine. So it was someone I wanted to check out for sure. And none of my family or friends or anyone close to me had ever visited. So I figured it was just a place that I can go and learn and explore, coming from inner city Washington, D.C., whenever you can get away, you want
Yeah.
to get away.
Yep.
So that's what I did up there. Had a phenomenal time on my official visit. Adam Farkas was my host. Him and I keep in touch periodically, still till today.
Good.
But Adam was a quarterback at the time, and yeah, he was my host. Had a great time up there with those guys.
So what was the recruiting process like? It's so different today, right, Roosevelt? I mean, these kids are
Oh,
getting paid and all kinds of crazy stuff, but
and they can leave. They can leave. They can
they
transfer.
they can leave whenever they want. So go back, you're 18 years old, they're knocking on your door, they're saying, "Come up to this school." Was your family involved? Was it all on you? Who helped you with that decision?
Well, it was my decision to make. It was my decision to make essentially. Honestly, to be honest with you, Jeff, I wanted James Madison. I wanted JMU, but
Okay.
I was in Virginia. I guess I wasn't a JMU caliber athlete at the time, but no worries. Didn't get James Madison, but I got into the conference, the CAA conference, and Maine was the landing place. So
Yeah.
totally happy with that decision. Like I said, I stayed through undergrad and graduate school. Not everybody makes it through Maine, especially coming from Washington D.C. or
Oh
coming from the
yeah.
metropolitan area. So I'm proud to say that I made it through and stayed around for graduate school as well.
That's awesome. So walk me through day one, Orono, 18 years old, freshman, summer camp. What was that transition like from high school to D1 football? 18, you show up there, you got seniors, fifth year guys that have been there putting on massive size, and then
Oh,
here you are walking in and seeing these monsters. What was that like?
Jeff, I'm 5'7", I'm 145 pounds, 50 pounds soaking wet back then. So it was definitely, a bit overwhelming, I'd say, in many aspects. But the summer prior to camp, I lived with Bruno Dorsman, who was a captain at the time. And Bruno, kind of showed me the ropes. I'll always give him credit for that. He kind of showed me the ropes, how to show up on time. And with Cosgrove as the head coach, on time is 5 minutes early.
Early.
So
I
yeah,
mean,
certain things, certain intangibles I took away from my experience with Bruno that summer. He's the first guy I think that I saw pull a chair in front of the refrigerator. I'll never forget that. Bruno sat in front of the chair in front of the refrigerator and looked through it. It was funny to say the least, but it was a great experience. And I guess I would say, the size is what really stood out. The size and the speed of the
yeah,
athletes was the differentiating factor between my time in high school. But I played with some All Americans in high school, some pretty elite guys. One guy went, Army All American went to Virginia. Another went
yep,
to Notre Dame. We were pretty loaded. We were pretty stacked at the Christchurch school for sure.
yeah. Well, you weren't running
Yeah.
into 200, 300-pound linemen in high school for
Nah,
the most part, right?
nah, not behind those guys. No, we weren't running
Yeah.
behind those guys.
No.
No,
Yeah.
no.
So how about, challenges? What kind of challenges did you face at Maine? What was the transition like to be a student? What did you face on the field, off the field, anything?
Yeah, tons of challenges, and in hindsight, had I known that counseling services was something that was offered, I talked to one of my buddies um, that went to school with us at Orono as well. And he said when he first got there, he came from Brooklyn, New York. When he first got there, he, utilized counseling services on campus. And that's something that I wish I probably would have done or should have done back then. But I was navigating a lot on my own, as I, had been taught to do. Again, growing up in DC, I was the man in my house since I was 6 years old. So, I kind of put everything on my shoulders and ran with it. But I was injured actually. I broke my tib and fib my junior year of high school, so I had screws put in my ankle.
Oh,
Missed the entire junior year of my high school year. My high school senior didn't play at all, not one down. So when I got to college, there was another injury I sustained in camp, which kind of had me sidelined for like at least a week or two. So that kind of set me back. Ended up getting the pins removed after a year, so that was fine. But in addition to that, being away from home, having to navigate. I was very well prepared, being self-sufficient, being that I came from a boarding school. So things like
yeah,
study hall, washing your clothes, things of that
yeah,
nature. I was already accustomed to doing for myself, which I know many other first-year athletes weren't. So I was a little more advanced in that regard. But you don't get acclimated to the cold up in Orono your first year there. So
yeah.
it's dark at 3 o'clock, and from freaking October through
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. How about it
May.
starts snowing mid-October up there?
Yeah, man, it was a different dynamic, especially coming from Virginia. I wasn't in New York or New Jersey where a lot of the other guys were from. I was
Yeah.
down in Virginia, so it was a different ball game.
Yeah, whole nother world. So how about from some teammates, coaches? Who were your biggest influences while you were up there?
Biggest influencers, I would say. I listen to myself, Jeff. I don't want to hear them. I don't want to hear what these older guys got to say. I don't want to hear that. I'm joking. Uh, I would say, like I said, Bruno was the captain of the team my
Yeah.
first year. He kind of, showed me the ropes, onboarded me pretty. I have a lot of respect for Bruno. Um, in my room, I was a running back. So, Jamal Llewellyn was a very talented athlete. He had transferred to Maine from Syracuse, was a very talented athlete, someone that I looked up to as a player, very good
Yeah.
player for sure. Um, the Dez's of the world, Desmond Randall was a good buddy, a little bit older, a year ahead of me. Kind of showed me the ropes in college as well. But Brandon McLaughlin, Brandon was a good guy for sure, a good guy to connect with and know. Kind of showed me the ropes about how to navigate Maine as a state, not just the University of Maine.
Yeah.
Brandon was pretty well equipped in that and very well versed in that space. But yeah, a few guys here and there.
Okay. Good. So how about you played up there. What did playing in Maine, what did it teach you?
Resilience, yeah,
Mm,
resilience was for sure. Resiliency skills. It reinforced that, I would say. Being embracing the suck. I would say a
yeah.
lot of kids today, nowadays don't embrace the suck. You have to go through the tough times to enjoy the sweet moments. And I think there are a lot of tough times being in Orono, Maine, for
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
especially a young guy from DC. So,
Yep.
that's one thing I would say for sure. Two things I would point out as, that I will always hold on to from my experience in the University of Maine.
Okay. So describe to the audience who's listening, like what preseason camp was like for you.
It was I remember the black flies. If you I don't know if you
Oh,
remember
those
that.
are the worst
Yeah, they get in your socks and they were
everywhere.
terrible. But preseason camp, it's always a grind. I think we could do 2 days back then too. Back in 2007, 2008, you could do 2 days. So we're practicing twice a day. It's hot. It's gruesome. It's other places you would prefer to be if you weren't a football athlete aspiring to
Yeah.
win a
Yeah.
conference championship. But it was hard. It was the day started at like 7 a.m. They didn't end to 10 p.m. And it's like I think 25 days we were allotted for camp. I don't remember exactly the number, but
Yeah.
20, 25 days or so of camp, man, and you're waking up at 7, you're going to bed at 10 just to do it all over the next day. And
Yeah.
it takes a toll on your body, both mentally and physically.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
camp's
a
a
lot,
grind.
in today's world, I kind of bust the young athletes say like they're on vacation in preseason. They have to do they can't do full pads more than once a week or something. It's helmets only, uppers and days off. I'm like, what?
Things have changed drastically. Yeah,
Oh my
Jeff, things have
God.
changed. The kids, they don't know what it's like to go through a tough, grueling preseason camp for sure.
No, no, it's just
Yeah.
different. Now which is better? I don't I mean
Yeah.
more injury back then, less
Ex-
injury now, tougher back then, weaker. I don't know. You
Well,
know?
I guess we'll find out. We'll find out in 20 years. We'll see how our heads work in the next 20 or 30
Oh
years. We'll
yeah.
see who's,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, if I go back to my days, it was 3 a days.
Oh my gosh. Oh my
It
gosh. I
was
didn't
it
want to
was
think about that, Jeff.
it was triple sessions, full pads, for 21 days, 20 whatever it was. It was nuts. It's full scrimmages on Fridays. It was nuts,
My
but
gosh, man.
it's just
I wouldn't
there's
want to be
just
a part of that. I
no,
don't want to be a part of that. Yeah, no, I don't want to be a part of that.
no. We can talk war stories all day, right? So
For
how about
sure.
this though? You were up there for a number of years, right? Six altogether, I think, seven.
Well, actually 9, including graduate school.
It's
Then the 2 I
okay,
stayed to
right.
coach. Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
so can you pinpoint any specific time? I'm going to pick two. During your playing days as a student, can you pinpoint any particular time and like, wow, that was just awesome? And then as a coach, can you pinpoint any particular time that like that's a great memory?
Yeah. As a player, I would say one thing that always comes to mind is, it was UNH, probably 2009. Sean Watson, he was a linebacker at the time. He was a senior, I think, my freshman year. And I think I still keep in touch with Sean. I spoke to him probably a month or two ago. He's doing quite well for himself in the Philadelphia area. But we played UNH, who were our rivals. And I remember this was senior day because Sean's dad was there and it's snowing. Like you can hardly see on the other sideline. All
Yeah,
right, that's how much snow was coming down. But I just remember, and can you use profanity here, Jeff? Can I?
sure.
I just remember, Sean Watson and his dad were just like, fuck you, UNH, fuck you, UNH. And
Yeah,
I will never forget that moment because that showed me the extent of that rivalry. It's one that runs very deep and it's almost a hatred.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
it's
that's
almost a
still going
hatred.
on. I
Your
mean, back when
dad,
I was playing, we wanted to kill those sons of guns.
his to see someone's father comport in that manner, though, it was pretty funny. Yeah, it was very funny,
Yeah,
and it's something I will always hold on to. When I
yeah,
meet people today from UNH, I'm always like, man, I joke with them, but I tell them like, we can't really be friends if you're from
yeah.
you,
Oh, yeah.
you know.
I do the same thing. Same
Yeah,
thing.
we can't really be
Oh
friends.
God. So how about as a coach? What stands out as a great memory as a coach?
As a coach, I would say, shoot, man, there was some good and some bad. I mean, our top running back went down. I think my second year there, he had concussions, the protocol, the concussion deal. So his career ended very early, but he was a very good player, very very good player. He had New Jersey, probably one of the better running backs I think that may have come through Maine. To be honest with you, super talented kid, but to lose him was kind of like, wow, okay, this is devastating. So what do we
Yeah.
do? And I remember we played Villanova that year, and our fourth string running back. All right, this was the last running back on the depth chart. Only running back we probably had healthy. He started for us against Villanova, who was a pretty competitive program at the time, and he was productive. I had a solid game. It just let me know that, when you take coaching and do what you're advised or coached to do, you can be productive, especially out of the backfield. I'm
Yeah.
very proud of the young man. Yeah, I still keep in touch with him today too. Darius Bender. Some people follow him on his Instagram. He does a lot in the business world. So he's doing quite well for himself. But he started for us against Villanova, and I can stamp that. If people don't believe it, he's smaller than me, Jeff. He's probably 5'4". You know, but yeah, he started for us, and that was a very memorable moment because that was someone that worked to be in that
Yeah.
position, and it fell into his place, fell into his lap.
That's awesome. Hey, it's not the size of the body, it's the size of the heart,
Yeah, exactly,
right?
exactly. Yeah, tons of it. Yeah, tons of it.
So what motivated you to stay up there to coach? I understand you're gonna go for your grad school, but then you stayed to coach. What was the motivation factor for you to stay up there to coach?
Well, it was an opportunity to get into the intercollegiate space. So on the athletic side of the house, I don't know if you're too privy at this, Jeff, but it's very hard, especially at that point in time, to get a
Oh
job
yeah.
in
It's hard to
intercollegiate
get a
athletics.
job, it's hard to keep a job.
Hard to keep, even harder today,
Yeah.
but getting in back then was the hardest part. So I'm very appreciative of that experience, that opportunity. I was 23 years old, running a room at the Division I level. I thank Coach Koss for seeing enough in me to allow that.
Now that
Um,
was his idea, or was that your idea? Did he recruit you to coach, or did you go knock on his door?
listen, Jed. I was not trying to stay up in Orno and be. Let me tell you. No, but it's all. I mean, in full transparency, I think it was a mix of it was a mix of both because I was coaching throughout graduate school. I coached at both Old Town and Hamden Academy.
Yeah.
So I had 2 years under my belt coaching high school varsity football, and the door opened for me to take a role there on his staff. I was there with him for his final 2 years at Orno, actually.
Yeah. What was it like working for him? Because he's a legend up there.
Yeah, yeah, great guy to work for. Yeah, yeah, great guy to work for. And I'm just young entering the business. A lot of these
Yeah.
guys that get to Maine, they've been at 2 or 3 stops before getting there. They've slept in their offices.
Yeah.
It's a grind.
Yeah.
That business is a grind. So for him to hand me the keys at such a young age, it was, in hindsight, I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I learned a lot. I remember I cried one day, man. I had a part-time job. I worked in Camden. I used to drive an hour and 20
Yeah.
minutes during the off season, Camden,
Yeah.
Maine.
Yeah.
I worked at a mental health overnight residential facility overnight because the money is terrible. You know what I mean? Like the money was terrible.
Yeah.
But I would drive an hour and 20 minutes after work at Orno, work overnight, maybe come back, get an hour or two rest at my apartment in Bangor, then drive back up to work the next day on campus, man. And I just looked at myself one day. I'm like, what am I doing? You
Yeah.
feel, you know what I mean? Like I've already completed graduate school. I had 2 advanced degrees at that point in time. Like, what am I doing? I'm away from my family. I love football, but dude, like,
You're
you got
not
to
making any
question
money.
yourself. I ain't got no money. Like all my friends vacating, going on vacations, they
Yeah.
chilling, hanging out, and it's just like, dang, this is really because, and even being in graduate school, none of the kids that I entered Ono with stayed around for graduate school. So I was there essentially by myself with Brandon McLaughlin. He stuck
Yeah.
around for graduate school as well,
Yeah.
but it was a tough time. Yeah, definitely a tough time mentally.
Now you were involved with recruiting also, right?
Yeah, I did. I coordinated recruiting in our second year there. And listen, recruiting at Maine isn't recruiting at Rutgers. It's a different ball
That's what
game.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say. Like, what was that like? How like now I would imagine though, it's got to be different for you who played there to recruit there versus never playing there and have to recruit there. So what was that advantage like being able to tell these kids, hey man, I played here. I know what it's all. Was that easier to recruit that way?
yeah, I think for sure. For sure. It's definitely easier because obviously you're carrying a sense of pride whenever you go into a
Yeah.
home with the family. And as an African American young adult, I can have a conversation with the family that other coaches on the staff couldn't have.
Yeah.
So it was beneficial for sure. It was impactful and it was helpful. We recruited some pretty talented athletes up there.
I'm going to put you on the spot, and this is tough for any coach to say, but can you
I'm not gonna
pinpoint?
say it.
Can you
I'm not gonna
can,
say it. No.
can you pinpoint one kid that was your favorite recruit?
Favorite recruit. I can't say I had a favorite, Jeff. I can't say I had a favorite. No, I couldn't give you a
It's
favorite.
hard,
I would
right?
say it's very hard because when you're a recruit, I mean, you're recruiting hundreds of kids at a time,
Yeah.
essentially, and then you come down to the kids that say yes, that you really want. But once you've done it for a number of years, it's kind of hard to identify one recruit that you'd hang your hat on.
Is there anyone you're most proud of because of their accomplishments?
Um, I would say Isaiah Pacheco at Rutgers. I was not the sole recruiter for him, but he was in my territory when I onboarded at Rutgers. So I kind of came in on the back end when he had already. Well, he was pretty much committed to the school, but I was a
Yeah.
part of his recruiting process at Rutgers. So I mean, he's a two-time Super Bowl champion now. So I
Yeah.
would say that was probably the most achieved.
Is he
Yeah, the
is he
most
a two
achieved
time or
kid.
three time? I don't
I
remember.
think he only has two Super.
Two?
Maybe he has three. Yeah, I think he has two. I know he won two in his first 2 years, so maybe he has
And
three
I
now.
think he's the only running back in the history of the NFL who's won their Super Bowl
Dude,
the first 2 years.
yeah, for sure. I mean, he runs hard. He ran the same way in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, ran the same way in high school. I'll tell you also, one kid that I didn't win, but that was by far the best player I've ever seen. One of the best players I've ever seen. Rasheed Walker is the kid's name. He went to North Point High School in Maryland and didn't come to. He went to Penn State, and I think he was a 3 or 4 year starter there at Penn State. Now he starts for the Green Bay Packers.
Okay.
But if you get a chance to go back and watch his high school film, anybody who knows the evaluation process, my God, he was a ball player, Jeff.
Really?
Played tackle, but was uber athletic, could play tight end as well, like uber athletic. And I would always go back to the school. Coach Petrie was the head coach at the time. He's since retired and moved on. But I would always go back there and try to recruit kids from that school because for sure they produce.
That's awesome. And he's on the Packers now.
He starts left tackle for the Packers, unless he's hurt this week. But he was starting left tackle for the Packers. Yeah, yeah.
So, what advice, you've been in so many different cool spots, Roosevelt, and you started from the ground floor up in college
Yeah.
athletics, right? What advice can you give to today's high school kid preparing? Uh-oh. Oh, something happened there. You still there?
I'm still here. Yeah, I see you just fine, Jeff. Can you
Yeah,
hear me?
yeah, you disappeared for my thing went off for a second. That's weird. I'm good, all good on my end. You didn't see
Okay.
that glitch?
No, no, no. That was on your.
Or
Yeah.
maybe the maybe hopefully this cuts it's edits out. But anyway, what advice can you give to the high school kid getting ready, to play at the next level, when he walks on campus, based on what you've seen, what you've experienced, to get these kids ready for today?
Yeah, that's a great question. I do some training as well, Jeff. I train some young football athletes down in the DC area, and I actually had a conversation with the mom just last week. Um, let's take away the physical component of football and think big picture, right? The purpose of going to college is to get a degree that will set you up for the next 40 years of your life or so. So the conversation I'm having with this mom, it's like, he's not getting the Division I attention he wants. Obviously, there's a transfer portal. Totally understand that. He's an undersized running back. So I get it. Good player. But what I'm pushing is because I've been in the Division III private school space as well, Jeff. I'm pushing to tell mom, like, mom, the kid's a 4.0 GPA. There are a lot of the minority kid as well. There are a lot of private schools, NESCAC schools, other Division III privates out here that would love to have a player of his caliber, a student athlete of his caliber on
Yeah,
their campus. So what I advise kids is don't get caught up on a name of a jersey or a school, because if they you can't want a school more than they want you.
yeah,
And a lot of kids fall in that space. If you want a school more than they want you, you'll be a practice squad player for 4 years, and you'll go through all the same rigor that the student athletes that play on Saturday do, but you just won't get the reward for it. So go somewhere where you're appreciated and you're valued, and you should know that. You'll be able to tell that when you interact or engage with the coaches.
yeah.
Yeah.
How about this for advice? And this is tough for people to hear, but how about what advice can you give their parents? Because they're a part of the recruiting process for a lot of these kids. And sometimes I think the parents want it more than the kid does sometimes. What advice can you give to the parents about the involvement in the recruiting process with their kids?
Fall back a little bit, okay? Because when the kid gets recruited, the coaching staff's recruiting the entire family. They're not just recruiting the kid. So if mom's, someone that's a helicopter parent, and dad follows mom's lead, like that becomes annoying for the coach or the
Yeah,
coaching staff. It could turn the coaching staff away from the kids. So my advice would be allow the kids to enjoy that process, that journey. Obviously, if you're a part of the decision-making process, then you can have your input when it's all said and done. But you want to weigh your options and you want to choose a school for your child or advise your child to choose a school that he's going to get the most out of it holistically, not just on the football side of things. Because at the end
Yeah.
of the day, Jeff, I can't play. I don't even want to play a football game anymore. All right. I probably sprinted. Literally, I sprinted one time since 2011.
Okay.
That's a fact. And I for 50, I raced the guy for $50. He
To
put he
win?
beat me in a race. Yeah, I won. Yeah, hell yeah, I won.
Damn right you won. So
Yeah,
that's a good point, Roosevelt, what you said about the parents, you know, and I don't think sometimes the parents understand the the roadblocks they set up for their kids
yeah,
because like you said helicopter like they're too involved and
yeah.
it's almost like if I'm a coach I'm like I don't need that headache.
No, you don't. I'll recruit somebody else. There are tons of
Yeah.
football players out here.
Yeah.
Unless you're an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman, you're very easily replaceable. And I think parents and kids need to realize that in
Mm.
high school. Unless you're a big guy up front, you are very easily replaceable.
Talk about that because that's a great point. I've never heard that. That's a great point to bring up. Is yeah, you can't coach 300 pounds. They just come 300 pounds. But you
They
can
come 300 now.
but the kids like the DBs, the receivers, they're a dime a
Ah,
dozen height and weight.
ah, ah. You find them anywhere. You
Yeah.
can find them anywhere. And especially in the mid-Atlantic, the DC, Maryland area,
Yeah.
or the New Jersey area, there are tons of athletic kids down that way, defensive
Yeah.
backs, wide receiver type kids, but they struggle up front.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why you don't see University of Maryland or you don't see even a Rutgers winning a national championship. They struggle to win up front in the trenches where the game is won.
Yeah.
So Penn State grabs the best athletes from that area up front, hence Rasheed
Yeah.
Walker. Um, but you're very easily replaceable. So have a sense of humility.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need more humility for
Yeah.
sure.
So let me ask you this. What did you look for? Forget the athletic talent. Let's just talk about the young man. What did you look for in the recruits when you were out there trying to, bring a kid to Maine?
Yeah, yeah.
What were you looking for in a young man?
Coachability. How high does the kid think of himself? Obviously, you want somebody with confidence. You can,
Yeah.
wind that down. I can't teach you to have confidence though. So, if you don't think well enough or high enough of yourself to be in a Division I space, then I'm probably not going to spend time trying to recruit you. But you definitely want a kid that can do a number of different things physically.
Hmm.
Um, Pass protection. That was something I struggled with in college, Chef. I'm too small to protect, but everybody I trained as a running back, you got to know how to pass protect. And you got to put that on your highlight video as well, because coaches don't want someone that can just run the football. Again,
Yeah.
you're very easily replaceable if that's what you're demonstrating on your highlight video. So you
Yeah.
want to show that you can catch the ball out of the backfield, maybe line up in the slot. You want to show your value in more than one position, especially as a running back or even a wide receiver who can also play defensive back.
Yeah. Now how about how I gotta throw this out there because these kids aren't perfect. They sometimes get in a little trouble. How did you handle that as a recruiter? Hey, this kid's good, but he had a little trouble in the past. Did you overlook it? Did you try to address it? Was it part of the
Well,
process, or did you ignore those kids who had a little trouble?
it depends on, to be transparent with it. And depends on how good the kid is, to be
Yeah,
honest with you, Jeff. But
yeah,
the reality of it is, coaches lose their jobs behind players
yeah,
and the dumb decisions that they make. So you jeopardizing everybody's coaching career, and when you think about a coach losing a job, Jeff, you also think about the kids that they have to uproot and move to a new school or to a new town.
yeah,
So it's something that kids don't often process or think about, but being on the inside, I can, because I've seen guys have to relocate. And
yeah.
I work with guys that don't even know what I work with guys, Jeff, who didn't know what school their kids went to.
Oh my
Mom
God.
had mom handled everything, But the point is that when you get fired from a staff, you have to relocate. You have to relocate your family, and that's never a fun thing to do, especially when you have
No,
children involved.
no, not
So
at all.
the roundabout question would be: if the kid's a problem, stay away from his ass.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good. That's good advice. Okay, so now you go to Rutgers. You go from Maine down to Rutgers, right?
yeah, eye
How
opening
was that?
experience. It was eye opening experience.
Because that's where I
Uh,
met you. I met you at Rutgers.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
It was eye-opening experience, man. I remember the first day I was there, it was like a workout and it was summer off-season workout. And I saw a kid curse at one of the strength and conditioning coaches. And I'm like, hold on a second. You know, that wasn't something that happened often, but for me to see that in my first day there, I was just like, dang, this is a different level.
Yeah.
Players get away with a lot more at that level. It's the Big Ten. You're in New York City, essentially right outside New York City. Like you're you get a lot.
So talk about your roles there. You had a couple. You were recruit involved with recruiting, player and
Yeah, I started.
development, engagement. Talk about that and what that role was like. Was it massively different than what you were doing in Maine, or was it similar?
No, it was massively different. In Maine, I was a position coach, so I coached the running back position. And when I got to Rutgers, it was in personnel. I was in recruiting. So I
Okay.
would, identify kids in my area. I was recruiting the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area, as well as South Florida. That fell in my territory as well. And I was charged with identifying the top prospects, evaluating them, and then passing them on to the position coaches to make their offers.
Now,
And
did you enjoy that part of the game?
the evaluation process, I did. I enjoyed it quite a bit. And actually, I was afforded an opportunity to go down to Atlanta after my first year in Rutgers, and I interned with their personnel department under Scott Pioli. Thomas Dimitrov was the general manager at the time. But that was an eye-opening experience to see what an NFL organization entails and what that looks like day to day. So I was there for I think 2 months or so. Yeah, it was a
Okay.
good experience. Then I went back to Rutgers in the player development space, and that role it's all about helping athletes transition from the playing field to the
Yep.
workforce, essentially to the real world, which requires a lot of work. And the earlier athletes, understand that and start that process, the better off it'll be for them in the back run, on the back end.
Yeah.
Um, it's a transition. It's a psychological transition. You're going from being praised your entire life for being a 4-star or 3-star athlete, the best athlete in your town, to being nobody in the workforce, especially if you don't have any internship experiences,
Yeah.
or so that's a transition in and of itself that athletes just aren't always prepared for.
Yeah.
So I love the role, love the position. It's something that I try to do in my own personal life when I mentor the kids or train the kids I work with.
Yeah. Now you were involved with their program Life Beyond the Game, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And so
yeah.
talk about that because that's how I met you. I was invited to come speak to the team back then, and talk about that experience and how that impacts the kids to get them ready.
Yeah, it's so life beyond the game. Again, that was our off season program where we educated the athletes or helped them develop more so personally, professionally, and socially. Um, so we would invite guest speakers like yourself to share on the financial literacy, the importance of that. And I'll tell you this, Jeff, I did a think tank in 2020 with at the NFL front office. Um, it was myself, the player development guy at East Carolina, and then it was all NFL organization player development guys. The guy from the Pats, the Texans, the player engagement office in New York City. So we were all brainstorming, what do kids need when they transition from college to the pros? And
Yeah.
the number one commonality that everybody shared was the financial literacy, the financial education component.
Yeah.
They need more help in that space. So I'm glad we're able to consult with you and bring you into campus, bring you on campus. But that's something that I will continue to push, and hopefully more athletes are doing it now that they're getting paid in the college space.
Yeah.
Um, who knows what they're doing with their money, Jeff?
But Roosevelt, you would think that with the invention of the NIL and the world of paying athletes, there'd be more involvement with educating these kids.
Yeah,
There's
no,
not much going on, man. It's
no,
crazy. It's totally crazy.
that's
So
unfortunate.
so what do you think from a player development coach, right? What do you think like the young athletes need throughout their college career, you know, to really help prepare them for life after the game? Your financial literacy was one thing, but what else from a life skills perspective did you guys create in programs that would help these kids be ready?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, mock interviews, resume writing workshops. We put it all together, Jeff. We'd have alumni come back and speak to the athletes. One thing I would say I took away from that experience, you got a football team that's, and no disrespect to you, Jeff, you got a football team that's 90% African American.
Yeah.
You want to bring someone to campus that they can relate to, whether they're African American or not. I mean, you did a
Yeah.
phenomenal job with your presentation, but not sometimes you would get guys that will want to come in that are 75 years old. They're
Yeah.
the CEO of a hedge fund or something of that
Yeah.
nature, very high up in the financial world. But the kids don't retain information because you don't like
Yeah.
anybody that they've ever hung out with or
Right.
learned anything
Yeah.
from. So it doesn't resonate with them. So my point
Right.
is that you want commonalities, common interests, and if you know skin color is that commonality, and then
Yeah.
you want to do whatever you can to impart the information the kids need to know.
Sure. I'm glad you brought that up, because when I was in Maine, it was, what did you say, 90% African American?
If a team is typically,
Yeah,
I mean,
right, right.
football
But when I
football.
was there, it was the other way around, right? And
Okay.
and, and one of my interviews here with three guys on this show from my team, three African American guys who told their story about what it was like to be in Orono, Maine from 83 to 87.
Mm,
When the ratio that you just gave me was the completely other way around.
mm,
And there was no social media, there was no reporters, there was nothing. And Roosevelt, the stories these guys told me, I had no idea what they were dealing with. Because
yeah.
I can tell you this right now, the three of them never complained.
Yeah, I
Ever.
bet not.
No, they didn't complain about nothing. You didn't know what was going on. So now they're telling these stories about the racism that they face while they're up there. Like I was like shocked. And it
Yeah.
started to, like you get pissed. You're like, wait a minute, like how could that happen?
Yeah.
You know?
And not every
But that
it
was
still happens today.
I
Believe it or not,
know,
it still happens
I
today,
know
Jeff.
it still happens today. But
Yeah.
is there a difference now? I mean, the social media, the stuff that you can see back then, it was nobody knew nothing.
Yeah, yeah. I would
You
say the
know?
social media is the biggest difference now. If something like that were to arise, and people can obviously go to social media and voice their concerns or
Yeah,
issues. Or some people will have you sign an NDA or a non-disclosure agreement where you can't say anything about it.
yeah,
No.
yeah. But these three guys, man, they're all 60, 61,
Yeah, yeah.
telling their stories. And
Made them
it's
stronger people for sure.
yeah, but it still brings the emotion out, man. Some of them brings them to tears talking about it.
I'm not
You
gonna do
know,
that today, Jeff. That ain't about to happen over here, Jeff. I'm not about to cry.
right?
that
But
ain't that ain't about to happen.
no. So what do you think's changed? I mean, you've been out of away from Rutgers for a couple of years now. You've been out of away from Maine for a couple of years now. What do you think's changed in the college athletic landscape now that's different?
And are you referencing in the state of Maine, or are you talking about in
Just
general?
just in general, overall, college athletics, how much has changed since your day one on the job? What's the world like today?
They're getting paid and they can transfer. So
Yeah,
the recruiting process is I've got buddies that still are in the coaching space, both basketball, football,
yeah,
the big ticket sports, and every year they're refilling their roster.
yeah,
So you're recruiting a kid and you're selling him on this dream. But when he gets to campus, if he doesn't like his position coach, doesn't like the
yeah,
athletic trainer, he can just up and leave. So
yes,
again, you're charged with telling that story over and over. Listen, it's exhausting, it's draining. I don't know how people still do it.
yeah.
To be honest with you, in the college
And there's
space,
no
it's
there's no sitting out anymore. You could transfer and step right in now, right? Didn't they
and
get rid of
play
that
right away.
rule?
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You can play right away.
That is so stupid.
Yeah, it's interesting for sure. But kids are getting paid now,
I
and
know.
I can't. I'm not mad
And-
at that. They just got
yeah,
they need to be guided and advised on
yeah,
making wise financial investments,
right.
not buying Balenciagas, Jeff, not buying Louis Vuitton. Louis Vuitton and they don't care about you, kid.
I
Buy a
know.
house, buy some land, something that America's not making any more of.
Yeah, just,
Okay.
just just save your money. Just save it. You know what I mean? It's crazy. But
Put it in a life insurance policy with Jeff.
there you
Or
go.
are you financial? Put it in a life insurance
There you
policy.
go. There
Yeah.
you go. That'll work.
Man.
Right. So talk about your time at Colby and at Bowdoin. T different schools, different world, different levels, different
Wow.
positions. Talk about that experience you had there.
Yeah, so I was in student affairs at both Kobe and at Bowdoin. I was a dean or a class dean. Their modality includes a class dean. Each class year has a dean responsible for those students. And my first year at Kobe, I had 1,100 kids under my purview, Jeff. That's more than half the college. There's only 1,900 kids in the school. 1,100 of them are juniors and seniors. So, oh my
Wow.
gosh. And these are super elite kids. All right. They've never gotten a B on an exam. All right. They've always been A+ students. They have tons of resources. It was an eye-opening experience, to say the least, Jeff. And I would say that the same value on athletics isn't the same at a Rutgers or a Maine as it is at a Kobe or a Bowdoin. Those kids know that they're there to play sports for fun. I mean, it's something that they can do for 4 years of college, but they don't
Yep.
have ambitions of playing on a professional level. They want to go be they want to run hedge funds. They want to
Yeah.
work with JP Morgan and RU Financial. They want to do things like that, which
Yeah.
is what you want essentially.
Yep.
But it was a good experience at both institutions. I actually facilitate a course at Colby College doing their January term. So I go back up there every January.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
uh, yeah. It's a course entitled Hegemonic Perceptions of Black Masculinity. I actually think we're changing the name of it this year. It's called something else now. I don't even know what it's called,
Okay.
but it's a it's an exploration rather of the socio-political and historical context of identity of Black individuals, both men and women,
Okay.
and how we're sometimes perceived to be hypermasculine or overmasculine. And it's a very cool course. I've been doing it for the last 2 years now. I'm looking forward to going back up there this January. So if you're at Kobe and you hear this, make sure you sign up for my class.
Yeah. And
You will
it's a
you will
one
have
month
home.
course.
Yeah, it's just 1 month.
Yeah.
1 month.
Cool.
And I'm waiting for Bates. I'm waiting for Bates to call too, Jeff. I want to check from Kobe, Bowden, and Bates before it's all said and done, buddy.
There you
Yeah.
go. Well,
Yeah,
you're in
yeah.
charge of that. Go ring that phone, make it happen. You
Listen, if
know?
anybody from Bates is listening to this interview, man, call me, email me, Bates.
Well,
They do a May term.
there you go. There you go. Right. So let me ask you this. I mean, you're in the athletic development space, right? That's your world,
Uh,
right?
well, I was, yeah.
Right? I mean,
Essentially, yeah,
your career, you've been impacting athletes your whole life, right?
yeah, for sure. Athletes,
What,
students alike. Yeah,
yeah, why do you do it? Like, what do you
lack
get?
of.
What do you get out of it?
Yeah, I like to do what I didn't have or be what I didn't have. That's the biggest flex I think for any young man or young woman. If
Yeah,
you can help people that through a lens or provide a resource that you didn't have as a child growing up, then you've done something right. And I think that's what I would say that's what keeps me going in the athletic world. It's being that resource for families and parents that I didn't have as a child growing up in DC myself.
right.
So it
You
makes it
know,
rewarding.
and I mean, it's coming from the heart.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
Because
Yeah, for sure.
I think my personal opinion is the athletic development space. Do we want to get paid? Yeah, damn right we do. But
Need to.
it's not about the money. Guys don't go into that for
No.
the money.
No. You wouldn't go that. You wouldn't do that for the money.
No,
No, you wouldn't get in
no,
that space for the money.
no. You go into it for making an impact,
For
for
sure.
making a difference, for changing
For sure.
people's lives, for giving people direction.
Yep.
And the
Yep.
reward is financially would be nice, but the reward is watching these young men and women succeed in life.
That's a fact. I would tell you this. My first year at Rutgers, there was a kid, and um, I won't share his name, but I wanted to beat him up the first time I met him. And he knows that. If he listens to this, he would know that. He was a knucklehead. Got suspended from the team for a period of time for
Oh,
he was involved in a little situation at Rutgers, was suspended from the team. But I watched him mature. He's a child now. I still keep in touch with him until today. But I watched him mature over the 4 years while he was a student athlete at Rutgers. And now he's in the real world. He's having a positive impact on his community. I'm super proud of the guy. Super proud of the guy. We did a toy drive when I was down in Jersey, gave back tons of clothes, Christmas gifts to the kids in
wow.
his hometown. He's from Camden, New Jersey. And if you know anything
Okay.
about Camden, New Jersey, it's a
Yeah.
very under-resourced,
Yep.
pretty violent place. But kid had a good heart, man. Changed his life around in 3 or 4 years that I was able to work with him, or I was
Beautiful.
working with him.
What's he
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
today? What kind of work's he doing now? You know?
He was with the NFLPA for a little while.
Okay.
When we last spoke, probably about a year ago. I still follow him on social media,
Yeah.
but he was with the NFLPA for a short period of time.
Good.
And now I'm not sure what he's doing. I know he's trains. He's a trainer as well in his
Yep.
community.
Good for him.
Yeah,
So let me answer this. I look at you as a leader, right?
for sure,
You're a leader of young men and women, right?
for sure.
What leadership principles have you developed over your years as an athlete and as a coach that you feel are important today to utilize and promote?
Again, I think it's humility. It comes back to being a servant leader, right? You want to serve the overall goal of the group, not something individual or anything individual to you. You want to be that person that is a team player essentially. And football is the ultimate team sport. You've got 11 players on the offensive side of the ball that have to be on the same exact page. And if one person's not, the play's a bust. Defensively, you can get away with some things, but offensively, which I was an offensive coach, you gotta, everybody has to be on the same page. And a level of servitude or humility, I think, contributes to that. No one's bigger than yourself. I think our motto at Maine one year was, do your 111th, or I'm 111th, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. That's cool. So strong mind, strong body. What's that all about?
So yeah, so I started as a summer program. It's a not-for-profit. We started back in 2011. My mother and I, actually, she was the executive director. We started doing summer camps up at Orono, something to
Okay.
do for the kids. It was a big or huge obesity epidemic in the country at that point in time. So to combat that, we offered a free wellness and nutrition summer program up in Orono. I hired my teammates. There were no jobs. Jobs were scarcity up in Orono. I don't think they still are now, but they were back in our time there. So I was able to employ some of my teammates, man. If you don't give us a job, we'll go create them. And that's always been my mentality. Never cared about anybody else's job, Jeff. That's my point here.
Right.
Create my own damn job. Yeah,
Yeah, there you
yeah.
go. So what kind of impact were you making on those kids?
Well, some of them I still keep in touch with. Some of them have gone on to college, gone to the army. I've done programs both in DC and Maine, back in the
Okay.
hometown as well. You know, um, and today we have a kid here from West Africa. I visited the continent rather in 2011 when I was in graduate school at Orono. And I always thought how cool it would be to bring one of those kids back to benefit from our education system here in the US. And in 2021, I was able to do that. So I brought Devon Ivy here. He's been here for the past 3 years. Only calls me when he needs money, but
What's he
he's
doing now?
he's at the University of Idaho. He's a football student athlete there. He's a
Oh,
scholarship
beautiful.
athlete. Yeah, yeah. He's in his redshirt freshman year, so year two for him
Okay.
there. But yeah, that's been my investment, primary investment, and there's no return on it, no ROI on it, other than him getting a college degree
Yeah.
and potentially staying in the states. I don't know what the plan will be with the immigration laws right now, but the plan is for him to become an attorney, whether that be here in the
Okay.
states or back at home in Nigeria. But he was able to
Beautiful.
change his life for the better, and that's probably my greatest accomplishment, I think, Jeff. To be honest,
Yeah, that's a hell of an
and
accomplishment.
we've got a village now supporting him. It's not just myself. So I have a village of people who have all teamed together to pitch in and
Yeah.
make sure he gets what he needs. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Now, does he
So
have a shot at the NFL or no?
we'll see. He's 6'3", 240. He's
There you
an
go.
overhang or an edge defensive end linebacker kid. But I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I don't care. He's here now.
Yeah.
It's
Does
better
he
than
have
where he
any
was.
wheels? Does he got some wheels on him or
He
what?
can, yeah, he can run. He can play. He's a big kid.
Yeah.
He's a big kid. What I'll say is that the NFL Academy, now I'm at NFL Academy played IMG last weekend, and they have their program. They recruit kids from the UK or from Europe and West Africa. So if anybody's listening to this and is connected to West Africa or kids in the UK, the NFL Academy over there that's their stomping grounds. That's their footprint.
So what
They're
is that?
there.
What is that? I never heard of that. What is NFL Academy? Because my next question was to be, you're down at IMG Academy, and I know what that is, but I think some other people might not. But what's the NFL Academy? What is that all about?
They partnered with the school over in London, I want to say.
Okay.
It's a high school, and they're recruiting kids from West Africa and in Europe or in London somewhere. But the African kids on the team, I saw them in person last week, Jeff.
Yeah.
They look different. They just look different. Now, the physicality they're not accustomed to because they haven't played Pop One or
Yeah.
Pee Wee football. But when they get it, oh my God, it's going to be a game changer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be life changing for their families for sure because they all look the part.
Right. Do you think they'll bring the Little League Pee Wee football to those countries or no?
Well, I mean, bring some water to those countries. Bring more resources than Pee Wee football. They need water, clean
Yeah.
water, and
All right.
you know some
Yeah.
vegetables.
And
Yeah,
that's a whole nother story, right?
yeah,
So so
yeah.
so what brought you to IMG? That's like the elite high school athletic place in the country. Would you agree?
The world, I would say, Jeff. This is probably the world. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
There's no place like this. It's Disneyland for
Okay.
athletes.
Now,
Yeah, yeah. It's
did it
Disneyland.
start out with just primarily tennis in the beginning and then it grew from there, right?
Yeah, it was a tennis academy to start back in like the '60s, I want to say,
Yeah.
and the Serena's Williams, the Venus and
Yeah.
Serena Williams trained here. Pete
Yep.
Sampras, you name it. A lot of elite tennis athletes started
I
this
think
space.
Agassi was down there too for a little while.
Agassi, yeah, Agassi as well. Now, Jeff, don't quiz me. Don't give me a pop quiz right
I,
now. You
I
feel
know
me?
all those old guys.
Yeah, but yeah, very. It expanded over the years, and we're adding wrestling this year.
Okay.
So it'll be men's wrestling for the next year, 2026, 2027 academic year. So we're onboarding the wrestling staff. We hired a director. Each sport has a director, which serves essentially as their general manager, essentially. The place is elite, Jeff. I feel bad for kids that leave here and go to school at a Kobe or like you're not getting you'll academically you'll get it, but the facilities, the support staff, it's by far
It's
the
elite.
elite.
Yeah.
And you know, Jeff, I've been at a Rutgers, I've been at a Bowdoin where elite kids have I've been elite places the last four or
Yeah.
5 years, I guess I should say. But this trumps them all. Yeah, this definitely trumps them all.
Now, what's your role there? What are you doing, and what are you liking about it?
So I'm an enrollment manager. So I'll oversee a team of advisors who are charged with enrolling kids, getting kids enrolled in the school. It's a pretty costly price tag here at IMG, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
But we have about 24, 25 advisors, two to a sport essentially, that are charged with identifying prospects and getting them onboarded into the school. So I work with them from a behind the scenes, kind of a sales standpoint.
Yeah. Now, how do the athletes, are they recruited there? Do they apply there? Do they find you? You find them? How does that work?
Yeah, well, the advisors are charged with finding them for the most part. But it's a lot of them they pay to come here. A lot
Yeah.
of kids pay to come here. Yeah, and there's a small subset of kids that they'll go out and recruit. But for the most part, everybody's paying tuition to be here.
Right. Now, is it like a one and done? You go play 1 year and go back to your other high school, or are
No,
they go all
no,
years there?
no. Actually, they start at grade six, so they're
Really?
sixth graders. They're kids as young as grade six, 11 years old, and they'll go up until they're postgraduate. You can be a postgrad if you like to stay here that long.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. But some kids in the postgraduate track, they'll come for a year to either focus on academics or they didn't
Yep.
get the looks that they needed out of their high school, whatever the case may be. But they have you can start at grade six and you can continue on through your senior year of high school and not and even further into your postgraduate year if you
Okay.
like.
So I'm going to ask you to put your sales hat on for a second,
For sure,
right?
let's go.
And so
Yeah.
so why should the kids come there?
It's
What are you selling them to? Like, what's the reason?
it's our development. The APD program. We've got 120 professionals in that space, from mental performance coaches to personal or strength and conditioning coaches, to our athletic training team. You're getting that development that you're not getting. College coaches right now can recruit from a transfer portal. So what that means, Jeff, for family or parents that don't understand that, they can recruit other kids that have already gone through the developmental process at another institution.
Yep.
Most high school kids don't get that until they get into a college. Okay. But we're the next best thing to that space here at IMG Academy. So
Okay.
the kids that get recruited from here are very well ready to go in and play next year, wherever they end up in school, which most
Okay.
of them do. Yeah, but most of them do.
Now, who do you guys, what's the competition? I don't mean what the competition, who you're recruiting against, but who are you playing against? Like, who does IMG play?
Yeah, there's no particular league, and each sport's different. So, for football, like I said, they played the NFL Academy just last weekend here. It was the first home game of the season at IMG.
Yep.
They play a team out of St. Louis this coming weekend, but it's there's no league. You structure it based on. I'll take that back. Each sport has a national team, and they play a national schedule that
Right.
you'll see on television. But in basketball, we've got 20 different teams. So,
Really?
they'll go to different tournaments. So one of those teams will play local schools here in Florida.
Yep. Yep.
It's kind of a hodgepodge of leagues and conferences that we'll compete against.
Any Jersey schools you guys play against or no?
Wrestling is onboarding. I know Blair Academy is a big time
Yeah.
wrestling school down there,
Yep.
so I think we'll see Blair at a event or a tournament.
Tournament. Yep.
But no, I don't think any Jersey teams are on the schedule. I don't
No.
know. Maybe in basketball, I don't know. I work with the
Football's
advisor,
not playing Bosco or Bergen Catholic or anything like that?
not the national team. No, Jeff.
No.
They it wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be fair, Jeff.
All right. I mean, because these guys up here, I mean, they think they're everything, you know.
Yeah, well, I tell you this, we got two offensive linemen right now that are going to USC next year. They got a number one recruiting class in the country. Two of our starters are committed to there. You only got five guys on the offensive line,
Yeah.
and two of them are going to the top school in the country for
Yeah.
recruits in the next year's class.
That's good.
That's an example of how powerful
Because
the personnel here
because
is.
you do know that Jersey football is probably one of the best.
It's one of the best. It is. And in my time at Berkeley, I had a lot of arguments about that. I think the WCAC is the best. The Gonzagas, the DeMathis, and the St. John's of the world, and the good councils. They produce some of the best
Yeah,
athletes in the
yeah,
country. But Bosco, Bergen, I give them their respect for sure. There's definitely good
yeah.
programs up there. St. Peter's in Jersey
St.
City, is it?
Peter's, yep.
Yeah, St. Peter's. Yeah,
Yep. You got
yeah,
you got
yeah.
Hudson Catholic. All the Catholic schools now are really good in sports. Really good.
I respect Jersey athletes. All
Yeah.
right, yeah, it's in the water up there in Jersey, but the DMV has it too.
Yeah, of course, without a doubt.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So Roosevelt, we talked about a lot of stuff, right? My
Yes, sir.
question that I ask everybody is, man, you're a young guy. You got so much time in front of you versus behind you, right?
That's
But you've
true. That's true.
accomplished so many cool things up to this stage of your life. So look, if someone were to, hey, Roosevelt Boone, I hear the name. How do you want to be remembered one day?
A good question, Jeff. I would say as a selfless person, someone that always put others before himself for sure. Again, goes back to humility and servitude leadership. I would say that I want to be remembered as someone that always did what was right, regardless if it was, um, regardless of the situation or the environment. I always did. I took the high road as opposed to going low.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's important. But
that,
in all
that,
honesty, I want my family to be okay. So I got life insurance, Jeff. Yeah, I want my
there you
family to
go.
be okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Well, it's sometimes it's not who you leave behind, it's what you leave behind.
Exactly.
And you can
Yeah.
you can leave behind safety, security, or you can leave behind a mess. It's
Yep.
always a choice.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So
Yep.
that's a great comment. Well, Rosa, look, it's I could sit here and talk to you for 2 more hours about all kinds of cool stuff, but I know you
Yeah.
got you got a lot of things you want to do tonight. Is there anything we haven't touched on you think we should hit before we wrap it up?
Mm, you're the question answer here, Jeff. So do you have any questions for me? I would say, if it's along the lines of, the player development space, parents, it's okay if your kid doesn't get a Division I scholarship.
Yeah.
That would be what I would leave this conversation saying, Jeff, because again, a lot of pressure gets added on that athlete because he thinks mom and dad feels he's a disappointment because they've invested money with him or her getting a trainer, going to all these trips. A lot of undue and unnecessary pressure on the athlete, and that's not what we want. That's not what the kid wants or the athlete
Yeah.
wants.
What quick advice can you give to the parents?
I would say get educated. There's too often that I'm having conversations with parents who think they understand the landscape of recruiting, but you don't understand it unless you worked in it. So seek a consultant. You can contact me. I do some consulting on the side here, Jeff.
How can
So
they
you
get a
can
hold of you?
you can contact me. My email, mother.son@strongmind-strongbodyin.org. My personal email address is rboone, Boone, 3668 at gmail.com. You can shoot me an email personally and we can talk through things. But that's probably the best way to go about getting a hold of me.
Good. Well, I'm hoping everybody's calling you. I hope your phone's ringing off the hook after this.
That's why I gave
Or
my
your
email
email.
address.
Your
Can't
email.
call me. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I hope your emails are binging off the hook. You
No, but
know?
I hope that you continue to grow this space, Jeff. It's awesome that you're getting some guys that have been in the space and have been around, imparting knowledge to the next generation. So I'm happy that you had me on the call tonight. And again, if I could be of further assistance or help to you in any capacity, just let me
Yeah.
know.
Well, listen, I appreciate you taking your time out of your day, your life, and it's fun to watch you grow and
Yeah,
develop as a professional. I've seen you from day one, you
yeah,
know,
yeah. Long
and
time, long time.
yeah, and I know, man, I can only imagine what you're gonna do going forward. You
Thank you,
know,
Jeff. I
it's
appreciate
just a
that.
matter of time before I think you're gonna be an AD one day. Someone's gonna tap you on the shoulder to come run our program.
Listen, that's the call I'm waiting for here,
Yeah.
Jeff.
It's
And
coming.
I would also say for you though, Jeff, because I remember I was at Kobe. I sent you a kid that interned with you over the summer months, a football athlete as
Yeah.
well. So parents, student athletes, man, get real world experience. Even if that's
Yeah.
through, if you want to be a FA, financial advisor, or some point, anything in the financial space, contact Jeff. He offers internship opportunities all the time, and I know a number of student athletes that have gone through that process. So definitely get some real world experience. It opens your network. It expands your thought. You might not know a job until you enter that space and
Yeah.
see what it has to offer.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that plug.
Of
Right.
course, yeah,
And listen, so let's stay in touch. And
for sure.
what I always tell everybody when I wrap up the show, I always say, stay strong.
Are you strong?